Hey guys, as you might know, I have a new version of the Lenco Wheel developed, and I've made a few already. And I was asked by somebody to make a video showing what has changed and what hasn't. So what I thought I'd do is just show you design in CAD, and then I actually have one that is almost finished right now, so it's still open but finished enough so you can actually see it. So I'll also show you a bit of that, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. So as you can see, it looks kind of different. Main thing that has changed is that the frame is now 10 millimeters lower than it used to be. So as you can see that this height is now 40 millimeters. That used to be 50. And if you check out the width of the frame tube, it is now 20. It used to be 25, which means that the general width of the entire frame is now 10 millimeters smaller. It's still a bit wider than the original XR, which I think it helps because it gives you more, real estate for your feet. But the V4 is a bit wider. That can sometimes make it feel maybe a bit clunky. So this is kind of in between that. I actually really like it. It also means that we have less room for the wiring to go through the frame tubes, and also less room in the actual boxes because it's now not as high anymore. I also decided that the wires from the motor will no longer go through the frame tube. They used to go through these mounting blocks in here and then come out in the box. But now I actually think it's better that just for have the wires run a bit smoother, like not have sharp corners. Now the wire just goes through the outside and it goes in here. And if I remove the foot pad, you can see that I changed the layout to no longer be everything just in the box and have the box be self-sealing. Now there's actually a front box, and the front box has a cover, and all cables going to the outside have cable glands, which in my opinion is the best way to seal cables. Right, so the big gland has the Hall sensors and the motor phase wires in, and the small one is used for the foot sensor and the LCD screen, the battery indicator. And there's another one, and that is used because if for some reason you want to use an XR motor, like a hypercore motor, you can remove this plate and then you can just screw in the normal connector and the Molex connector, and then you need an extra connector for the Hall sensors, and you can use the extra gland to connect the Hall sensors the Hall sensors to the VASC going here. So that should be fine. The LED strips have been moved from the outside to the inside. It's screwed in against the front box, and it has the connector going out here. It is sealed just on the PCB, which means that it is now covered, so it can no longer hit anything. If you are hitting something, you will hit the bumper, and it has more of a makes the Night Rider effect of the LED look a bit cooler in my opinion. The box is held in here with a few screws. We remove the slide plate. You can see that there's two screws here to hold the front box, one here and one here. We still got the handle, changed it out a bit, made it a bit at an angle, which I think really helps to make it easier to grab. and we have 2 extra screws here, and those are used to hold these covers. They're just mud covers to not have these areas fill completely with mud. Maybe help a bit with water. Right, so that's basically it. In the back, because waterproofing is still not perfect in my opinion, but each time try to, you know, make it a bit better until I'm happy with it. What used to be a thing is that in the old design, the V4 design, the rear box was also just a battery between the frame and like a small plastic piece here, which was supposed to seal on the frame, and then the bumper was also supposed to seal on the frame, and that was all the waterproofing. But now I have a box that is at least covering all walls. This is the BMS, and the box is pressed on the bottom, and there's a gasket between the aluminum plate and the cover. You can see it here, and there's also a plate on top, and the foot pad compresses everything, and that will seal it. Has not been tested yet, but I think it is a great improvement from the old design. Also in the back, the LEDs now screwed in against the bumper, so you still can't hit it, also not on the back. But I did have to change the design a bit in order to make room for the battery box. The wires enter the battery box through this piece here, and there's a shrink tube going around it, and it will seal on this edge. So yeah, I think it has been greatly improved, and I had to make these cutouts in the frame in order to position the box. And as you can see in the design, it is see-through. In reality it's not that see-through, but kind of translucent, and that is if you're charging your battery, you want to see how full it is, right? And as this BMS is sitting here, you can remove the bumper, it will only be 4 screws, and then when you're charging and you want to know if everything is balanced, you will see the LEDs shining through the box, indicating how well everything is balanced, so you don't have to remove the battery, because it's actually quite tight in there if there's a battery in there. This doesn't really do it justice, because in reality the battery also has like strips on the outside and wires going everywhere. It needs 3 connectors, one for the charge wire, one going to the battery from the BMS, and of course the main power cable. So yeah, that makes it really crowded in here. I will show you later. And then another thing that changed is that we changed the design on the axle blocks. Right, so it used to be, this part used to be a stainless steel part, which was just laser cut, and it had like 2 flat sides and a nut on there, and we would clamp these nuts very tight, and it works. The drawback is that stainless steel is expensive material to make, and also it was not really the nicest thing to look at, because of course on the outside it's not really smooth, and I mean it was fine, but I really wanted to have a system where there's no more play in the axle. So I came up with this. There's an M8 screw hole. I calculated how much pressure was needed in order to transfer the torque of the motor to the axle block, and we tested it now. We're still testing it. Pretty soon it will be tested in race environments, because some of you might know, soon we have the event in Belgium called WOW by Skirt, and at least one, but most likely two people will raise this motor with these blocks, and yeah, we'll see what it does. We'll see if theory meets practice, so to say. And also nice to notice is that these axle blocks actually make this motor compatible with the XR frame. And the idea is to soon sell the motor including blocks and connectors in such a way that you can just buy it and remove the old motor, install this motor, 4 screws, 2 connectors, run motor detection, and it works. And I think the motor is pretty compatible. We have tested it already, and it's very fast and it's very torquey. It does require your battery and VESC to be able to supply lots of amps, but if you have that, many people already have a torque box, let's say with a 19S2P in it. I like the P45B cells from Molicel. They even have the P50s now, I think. And then you are able to supply it with many amps. And if your VESC doesn't overheat, because the motor will definitely not overheat, it will push you up. And it's quite an experience. But I will show some images of that, some video pretty soon. And yeah, I mean, it makes the board overall, I would say, less suitable for DIY purposes, because it is very tight. I actually have a wiring harness I have made, and it fits in the V4 style frame pretty easy. I use the same harness for the V5, but I have to change it quite a bit to make it fit, because it's so very specific. I also changed the connector to the XLR connector that the XR uses, and the reason is just for compatibility. I want to sell 19S chargers as well, and it makes no sense to have 2 different types of connector in stock, which means I have to keep more stock. So ultimately I just don't like that, and I don't really like this style of connector, because let's say you put a screwdriver in, your child does that or anything, I don't know, it will shorten out your battery, so I have to put a fuse behind that. I mean, it's really unnecessary if you would just flip the order and have the female connector like in here. So yeah, don't really know why Future Motion chose that, but I'm choosing to follow it now. And then last thing to notice is that the tire looks a bit wider, and that is because we actually are making the tire, the whole motor wider. It will be 6 inches wide, it's now 5 inches wide, and the reason for that is it will make it more stable. We are waiting now for the production of the mold for that. It is a cast aluminum piece that is milled, and then there's a stator being put in, and the company that does the producing the motor and that does the windings as well. And I'm expecting it to have the sample ready in 1 or 2 months, and then maybe 1 or 2 months afterwards we can have some motors ready for you guys. Still fine-tuning the axle blocks a little bit. I made this channel to guide the wires a bit better, because I wasn't fully happy with it, but again, fine-tuning. Overall pretty happy with the design, very happy with the performance. Again, if you're looking for something that you just want to build yourself, you want to build a battery, just put in any VESC and have it work, I would definitely recommend the V4. It's still a really good board, the V4, but if you want something that sits a little bit lower, has a little bit better, you know, can reach a bit higher angles, has a bit lower center of gravity, it's a bit narrower, and you are willing to either, you know, do lots of DIY stuff yourself, or you know, pay somebody to do that, this can definitely be a better board. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you have any comments, you know, other things that could be improved, things you like, things you don't like, please leave it in the comments. I try to listen to every bit of feedback I get, even the negative stuff, because sometimes it holds truth. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for now, guys, and see you in the next one.